Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Untitled Reviews. This being a show where I talk about dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Kung Fu. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So obviously, we're dealing with the aftermath of Mei Li telling Nikki the truth, and now Jin as well, and Jin's not too happy about it, because it's like, right, you spent so much time lying to me, for decades you've lied to me about all this stuff. So he ended up packing a bag and leaving. Nikki went to Evan to talk to him about it, which Evan's doing the whole Sabine thing, because it's like, right, their relationship isn't in the best place. I'm sure Nikki popping up has brought up a lot of old feelings for Evan, and he's kind of dedicated a lot of time to helping her, and he's kind of like, those old feelings are kind of resurfacing after she's been going for these 3 years. But also because it's starting to get Nikki wondering, like, right, my mom, like, deviated so much on my path. Like, she's always been so controlling, like, on every avenue of my life, even our relationship. She's like, who knows how things would have turned out if, you know, my mom hadn't interfered, like, if I was allowed to choose my own path. But then, like, you know, Evan's like, but, you know, Sabine's coming over. It's like, right, sure. Like, I shouldn't be, like, blowing up your relationship. And obviously, Evan's feeling it, too. Like, she's conflicted because, yeah, she likes Henry and cares for him a lot, but, like, she also cares about Evan. They have history, so that's the thing. Like, even when you move on, like, you know, when when it's a situation where you and your ex are, like, it's never, like, bad terms necessarily. Like, they just they were forced to go their separate ways. It's not like they necessarily chose to break up. So a lot of that unrequited love, not unrequited love, but a lot of those feelings, they never really had a chance to get closure in certain regards. So obviously that window for them is still open. So, and sometimes it's like you carry that love with you with all your future relationships. Not saying like, oh, you're still pining over that person, but that person will hold a special place in your heart because it's like the lessons you took away from that relationship kind of helped forge you into the person you are, type of thing. That's me getting all like, I wouldn't say existential, or just getting all into the lovey-doveyness of love, you know, because I'm a sap for love. I say it time and time again. Sue me for it. But nevertheless, so obviously that's a complicated thing. We didn't get any of the Evan and Sabine thing, but I'm wondering if his conversation with Nick, because Sabine's saying, like, shouldn't we at the very least try and kind of work things out? So I wondered, did his conversation with Nikki change things or what? But obviously, she comes back home when Ryan calls her to be like, yo, like, Dad packed a bag and left. So she goes over, and obviously she's not really talking to her mom. So her and Ryan is like, right, I'll tell you about everything on the way out. But because she knows where their dad is, because it's a hotel room, and it's like, oh yeah, like, you took us here like every summer, Dad, so I knew exactly where to find you. But obviously she's explaining this to Ryan, which Ryan's like, oh wow, we come from like that type of lineage. It's like, yeah, which immediately Ryan's like, it makes sense that you're the chosen one. She's like, what? It's like, yeah, like, you jumping in the air, like when I first saw what you were capable of, like, I told you you had to be something special. The way, like, that wasn't just 3 years of Shaolin training. Like, you got that hype because there's something about you. Also, it's like everything that you've done since you've been back, it's like there's something more to you. But for her, she just wants to put everything on pause, because to be fair, it's like being there for her father is more important right now, because I mean it's something she can do about all this other craziness. It's tough that not only her dad, but even she needs time to process. So she's talking to their dad and saying, like, you can stay here as long as you need to. A week, you need a week, go ahead. You need a month. But then, like, Ryan's like, no, like, Nikki, because it's like, for him, it's like, I'm trying to, like, fix everything, not trying, like, but it's like, Dad needs time to process a lot of stuff, because, like, truth be told, she was also speaking from her own personal experience, because it's like, right, she needed time. Like, neither one of them was necessarily in a position to really, neither one really felt like forgiving Mei Ling right now. So it's like, that's where that kind of comes into place. So, but Ryan ended up staying behind. And honestly, it's actually a really beautiful moment that he had. For one, I love the fact that they're bonding over sports. It's like, but then, like, Ryan is trying to, like, come from his mom's perspective of, like, right, she kept the secret because she cares about us. She was trying to protect the family, which he's like, I understand, but I just don't know if I can, you know, forgive the secret. And he talks coming from his own perspective of, like, once you've kind of lived in a lie for so long, it's hard to, like, you know, come out of it, because for you, it's like, you start kind of questioning whether anyone really knows the real you, and his dad's looking, I'm like, I'm sorry, and he's like, oh, I just need a moment. And he comes back, and his, you know, Jen apologizes, because he's like, I'm sorry if me and your mom, like, you know, my silence, like, hurt you, making you think that me and your mom would love you any less, but we don't. Like, you know, he's like, for me, you know, when you told us, you know, your truth, like, I was I was proud of you because I was like, I have a brave son. And it's like, do you have someone? He's like, yeah, Joe, you actually met him. And it's like, oh, like he seems like a very good man, and that's good because you deserve it, you know? And it's like, I thought it was such a beautiful, touching moment because Ryan had brought that up, like, at the beginning of the series, like, his family, like, you know, it's like, his family's response to him coming out, you know? Especially because he didn't really have, like, Nikki by his side, because Nikki has always been, like, his right hand that, like, you know, anything he ever had to go through, he could always lean on Nikki, you know? He always looked up to her, too, so... But this he kind of had to go through without her, so obviously that led to some of his resentment towards her. But I thought it was kind of a beautiful, touching moment they had. Because another aspect to this is Nikki's got to be there for Althea. Like, Ryan kind of suggests, like, yeah, you be there, because none of them want to tell Althea because she's dealing with the wedding and everything. Well, the bachelor parties are tonight, and it's like she wants Althea to have fun, especially considering everything Althea's already got on her plate. It's like, and she's the only one that knows all the stuff that Althea's got on her plate, that she doesn't want, like, Althea to have just another thing. So it's like, let's keep it quiet, let's have fun. Things are complicated for Althea because her mother-in-law, Diana, is coming along on her bachelor trip, which is like, it's like, I could tell my mom, you know, it's like, no, because your mom is bringing your sister, your perfect sister, so, like, I have to, like, show up and I gotta, you know, show her that I am the ideal daughter-in-law, so, like, you know, wanting to impress her. But then also Dennis is looking through some ideas that she had and was like, and that showcases, you're like, oh, snap, like, you know, Althea had come up with a device. She was like, basically, it was kind of like the equivalency of something that could, you know, basically kind of something that kind of exists now. That's kind of like, oh, it tells you like what you're running low on in your fridge, but it also accounts for like allergies and stuff like that. Like, it's a little more like high tech than most versions out there. And he was like, honestly, this is a great idea. She's like, yeah, but now all, like, you know, everything's kind of moving towards like home delivery, so the marketplace is kind of crowded. So like, I'm not even worried about it. But like, she has like a book of like ideas like that. It's like, once again, just showing casing you like, yeah, like if you already thought like, you already think like Althea's super smart, and it's like, this adds an extra level, like, holy, you're on some like genius level type of stuff. I was like, I knew you were ridiculously smart, but this is like even next level, dude. That's crazy. But obviously, like, Nikki and Althea show up on a party bus, and it's kind of like, no, this isn't supposed to be the example I'm setting. And when they go in, Diane's like, is that a party bus? It's like, yeah, it's a luxury party bus. Chloe's there as well, so it's like, right, her and Nikki's first time meeting, so Dennis is going to his bachelor party and everything, so it's like, yeah, have fun, just not too much fun. So at the bachelor party, obviously, you know, Nikki's telling some fun stories about his sister, and everyone's like, oh my god, chug, 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 but Althea kind of bails because she doesn't want it. Like, she wants to show like a more prim and proper version of herself, because she wants to because she always feels like she falls a little short in Diana's eyes, because as she even said, like, she's like, yeah, I'm sure I'm not even Diana's like 300th choice for Dennis, you know. And especially because Nikki was like, are you sure you're just stressing about this? Could it be the fact is that you're kind of keeping your own secrets because you haven't told, you know, Dennis about, let alone what happened to you, even the fact is that you signed that NDA and everything, like, you know. I wonder, did Althea tell Nikki about the fact is that she donated that money to Ryan's clinic so that they could stay open? I'm curious. I didn't know she told anyone about the NDA, but I guess it's like, well, Nikki knows everything else, so it's like she only probably confided in it. Now, because I'm sure, like, if she like, Ryan be like, well, where the money came from, so I'm sure she did. She wanted to keep it anonymous, because if he found out, like, it would cause too much of a ruckus in the family, so she didn't want to. So it makes sense that Nikki be the only one that would know about the money and everything too, potentially. So. But Althea's not really having as much fun, and sadly the party isn't as much fun either because of that. You know, it's like, yeah, like you are the queen of the party, so it's like you not vibing, and everyone else is kind of vibing off of you not vibing, and they're not having fun either. But for her, it's like, I got to show up. But obviously, like, you know, you have Nikki kind of kicking her butt, and like, you know, it's like, right, pulls out her cheerleading outfit. Everyone's like, splits. It's like, oh, not just because she could do the splits, but she can, but it's also like, right, that's her nickname and everything. So for the first time in the party, she's actually having fun, because it turns out Chloe's kind of been dealing with some stuff, and it turns out she's kind of mixed up in some shady stuff, because a dude, TJ, comes and picks her up, which because Nikki and her actually kind of vibed for a bit, because like they both can like understand, like, right, a controlling parent. It's like, right, it's like my mom kind of controlled a lot of my life, and I know like your mom, just from what I know about her, how everyone else interacts with her, that she's not the most like easy person to be around. I also appreciate Henry bringing that cardboard, like, it's like, right, because Nikki had printed it out, but it was like a picture of like shirtless Dennis. It's like pinned to tail on a donkey, but pinned to tail on like the shirtless Dennis or whatever. And it's like, I wonder, did they eventually pull that back out? It'd be pretty dope if they did, but they, because, God, what was I thinking of? Right, Althea had thrown it away, which is interesting, like cardboard cutout stuff like that, because I was recently watching this was like what, maybe 2 episodes ago at this point in time, of like Pajama Pants, and like Rob and Chasm had like did the same thing of like got a Jamie cutout. It just crossed my mind. I was like, oh, because it's just a cardboard cutout of somebody. Like that's just the most recent thing I had like in my mind until now. So that was just interesting. Tangent aside, that was just kind of in the forefront of my mind because of that. But side note, if you've never listened to the Pajama Pants podcast, I highly recommend you check it out. It's a very fun podcast. Regardless, promoting other people's podcasts and your reviews. I'm that type of weirdo, I guess. But nevertheless, getting back to the review. Chloe kind of like got mixed up in the wrong crowd of people because she... Well, and we find out that the guy that came and got her, TJ, interesting enough, played by Richard Harmon, which obviously if you're a CW stan like me who's watched most things on the CW, you're like, you best know him as John Murphy from The 100. But what's also interesting, and I think it's so fascinating, I actually feel bad for Richard Harmon. I feel like he kind of gets typecast, because most characters he plays, like, kind of are D-bags, self-centered D-bags to a certain extent. John Murphy, yes, he had his self-centered D-bag moments, but he could also flip to being kind of like selfless and, dependable from time to time as well, But even like his character in like, I believe when he into Killing, I believe as well, he was kind of a D-bag in that show as well. So I mean, like, he always plays some D-bag character. I feel like he gets typecasted, So at least Murphy has like some nuance to him. Like TJ in this particular episode, no, he's just a straight up D-bag. So... Nevertheless, I just thought that was funny and just had to mention that. But him, that other, was it, Allegra and Kendall were a crew that she rode with, where they basically robbed people's places. Kendall and Allegra got busted for it. Granted, they were able to kind of just get a slap on the wrist, but like TJ and Chloe were never taken down for it, so they're kind of getting dragged into it. Chloe wanted nothing to do with it, but now she's kind of getting dragged back into it, kind of forced into it, because they have tapes that prove like, oh, she was a part of this. Because what kind of, obviously Henry is there, and so Nikki's working with him to figure this all out. She talks to Diane a little bit, and obviously it's a situation where, she tried her best to get Chloe away from like the wrong crowd, but at the same time, that's why she sends her to Hong Kong. It's like, oh yeah, my daughter's doing great, So for her, at the end of the day, she just wants the best for her children, which obviously Althea like is having fun, but Nikki has to break the news to her, and then just like Althea's like still smiling, and then Nikki's like, please say something so I know you're just processing, and she just goes, Arr! Like kind of a muffled yell on the inside. It's like, oh my god, you got to get her back. Like it could ruin this whole marriage if like Diana finds out we lost her daughter and everything. It's like, especially if her getting mixed up in this. So it's like, right, we're gonna go see Dennis. He might have an idea where they might go. And it's like, right, when you're at the bachelor party, don't tell me like what you see. It's like, cool. And then her and Henry walk in on them having a Dungeons and Dragon campaign, and just everyone turns and looks, and Lincoln's like, hi, and Henry's like, the door was unlocked, and it's like, we walked on something weirder. It would have been less weird if there were like strippers here. We walked on something weird, which is like, hey, don't shut down. But it's like, oh, that's so nerdy. Once again, I love that the CW like really pumps that forward, because Clive from iZombie was super into D&D as well. Can remember those that whole shtick and everything. So I think that's so interesting. Like it works out like that. It's just like, oh, that's, once again, it's just like you kind of forget, like, man, D&D, obviously, because of like many people are really into D&D, especially when you have like Critical Role really putting it on the forefront and format. But like it's bigger than ever, D&D. I think Stranger Things had played a role in that as well. But regardless, tangents and all that. So I just thought it's interesting. And so Dennis had no idea like what his sister was kind of mixed up in and everything. But then he points out the ring, and then it's like, right, she was trying to get mom to leave with the necklace too, so they're most likely hitting your place. And it's like, no, you stay here and do whatever, continue doing what you're drunk, but also keep doing whatever this is that you're doing. And they're like, yeah, we got this. And obviously, she's like, Chloe's like, no, just take little, like, you don't have to take a lot, but like, they're doing this as payback because it's like, right, we took the fall for you. You were just as much a part of this crew, but we never ratted you out, and you didn't even tell us you were back in town. So it's like, you know what? We're going to steal as much as we want to kind of like, you owe us. Even the necklace that they were trying to protect. But luckily, Nikki and Henry show up, which I love that whole sequence. Like, obviously, Nikki kind of kicking TJ's butt, but also like the girls are like throwing crap at her, and just Chloe's like, no, stop, not the face. And it reminded me of like a Jackie Chan type of thing. In particular, it kind of reminded me almost like a sequence you would see in the Jackie Chan adventure series, the animated series, because that'd be a thing of like, wait, there's all this valuable stuff. Like, his uncle would be like, oh, not the vase, not the vase. Like, it seemed like such a Jackie Chan, like something you see in a Jackie Chan movie or sequence or something. I thought it was actually pretty dope. And Henry kicking TJ's butt too. Even that moment, like kicking him into the chair, grabbing the bag, and he's tilting back. I was like, just that moment. I'm like, that seems like such a like kung fu movie moment. That's so dope. And it's like, right, the vase gets thrown. And it's like Henry, he runs over, grabs it. Also, that move Nikki did where she like wrapped it around one of them's arms and then like went down below and then like wrapped it around the others. Like, I was like, that's like, come on, dude. Like, those feel like some Jackie Chan, like, you'd expect, like, because a lot of Kung Fu stuff I always appreciate, too, it's environmental. It's like, all right, I'm not just going to use my hands, I'm going to use the environment, because you're not trying to kill anybody, you're just trying to, but I feel like you see that mostly in Jackie Chan stuff. Like, his movies have always been, like, the more environmental, like, especially at one point when, like, even when Henry and, TJ, like, the whole chair sequence, like, even before it was, like, put on the ground, like, it was being kind of used as a weapon, like, that definitely felt like that, but obviously, like, they took TJ down because he fell back from the chair, and then like the girls were trying to run. No, I think it was Nikki did like a roundhouse kick that knocked him down, and then like Henry literally pulled the rug from underneath the girls, so they got arrested. Well, they're being tied down, but the cops had been called, and it's like, yeah, but I also called your mom. She'd be the first to know. But for her, it's like this is going to be bad. It's going to look bad publicly for the family. It's like, yes. But the fact of the matter is, your mom might be mad and everything, sure, but she loves you. That's what matters most. And when she comes in, she doesn't yell at her door. She just hugs her, just knowing that she's okay. And it's like, and I love when they go back to Althea. It's like, wow, really? And it's like, yeah, we just felt like you should know. She's like, really though? Dungeons and Dragon? He's perfect. I was like, that's such a cute thing. Because I also thought it was neat too that Diana and Althea had their moment together where she was like, right, here's this particular one. It's, okay, you know what, I'm going to change others. She was like, actually, you know what? I know I wasn't the choice that you would have wanted for Dennis, but the fact of the matter is, I can't keep living like this. Like, the fact of the matter is, she cares for his son deeply, but it's like, I can't not be me. I might not be, like, from the family I am, like, the fact is we're not rich and stuff like that. But then Diana's like, none of that ever mattered. You being from mainland China, which is so interesting. If it wasn't for, like, JK News, I probably wouldn't know. Like, well, JK is in general, because they opened my eyes, like, about a lot of stuff I was ignorant about in, Asian culture. Like, that whole, like, oh, yeah, like, mainland China and what that means, perspective-wise and everything. Like, oh, so I'm more knowledgeable on that just because of them. So always, shout out to Just Kidding. Just them in general. Obviously, they mainly just do news now, but just the JK crew as a whole. Regardless, the fact is that for her, it's like, yeah, like, you were very, like, you're not, like, she's like, I expected Dennis to end up with someone quiet. Like, when I was introduced to you at first, yes, I was kind of thrown for a bit, but the fact of the matter is, I was worried that you'd run circles around him, but the fact of the matter is, my son is head over heels for you. He loves you, and I've never seen him as happy before, and so it's like, I do see you as a good match for him. It's like, I may have felt a certain way before, but that's not the case. I am sorry that, kind of apologizing a bit to being like, I'm sorry that I kind of made you feel that way, but, so I thought that was kind of a pretty dope moment, because even, like, it's like Althea's like, yeah, I even bonded with Diana for a bit, so, like, this bachelorette party ended up pretty dope at the end of the day, so But obviously Ryan shows up and says like, yeah, me and Dad had a good chat, but yep, he's not coming home. So Nikki goes to visit him and is like, I understand why you feel the way you do, Dad. I'm still mad at her too. But the fact of the matter is, Mom is, she was scared and she's suffering. And, like, this isn't going to help things get better. Like, we kind of have to work toward. It's like, because, it's like, yeah, she kept the secret, but she's like, everyone keeps secrets. Like, have you told Mom everything? He's like, no. The fact is, she is like, I actually found you. And she's like, what? It's like, yeah, like, when you were in China, like, your mom sent me to go find you, and I did. It's like, wait, it's like, yeah, I followed you, but like I saw you and followed the truck back to the monastery and I found you and I didn't say it. She's like, why didn't you say anything? He's like, because you looked so powerful, beautiful and powerful, and that was kind of where you belonged, and I didn't want to take that from you, and he actually met Pei Ling, and I think that means a lot to her too, because like, you got to meet Pei Ling. It's like, you got to know like, yeah, she's had like recent like slope in belief in her, like the belief she had in her Shifu ended up sloping a little bit, but she's kind of back to believing in her. But I think it's nice that at least knowing that someone in her family got to meet Pei Ling, I think that means a lot to her, which I think is kind of a beautiful sentiment in its own right. But for him, it's like, if I didn't tell your mom, I told your mom I couldn't find you because I knew if I told her I did, she'd force me to drag you back. And it's like both laugh because they know how true that is, But obviously, it's like, Pei Ling immediately was like, wait, are you her? And he was just like, I gotta go, because she's like, yeah, like, she's a promising student, she's special. And I think maybe because of Pei Ling's situation, because we don't know when that was, because I'd like to believe that might have been a year into it, because if it was, that might have been what sparked Pei Ling to go back. Seeing a father tracking down his daughter like that, maybe it made Pei Ling decide, like, wait, like, this is a family member that cares, so I'm going to go try and make amends with, Jilan. Like, maybe that's where, because we never got the time frame of, like, when he found Nikki, whether it was, 2 years ago, because that would coincide with her trip and everything. It might, because it's like, why she specifically chose then to go, like, why 2 years ago she decided to go, why not before then, why not, I mean, she'd been keeping an eye on Jilan the entire time anyway through their uncle sending money and everything, but it seemed like something specifically triggered that, and I'm curious if it was Jin popping up like that, being there, not saying anything, because she's like, oh, do you want to come in? And he was like, no, but the fact is he did that, like, she was kind of doing the same thing for her, Shilon, so maybe she was like, he came in person to see Nikki, so I got to be willing to kind of take that step when it comes to Shilon. So I felt I didn't even think about that while I was watching the episode until I sat here thinking about it. I was like, that'd be interesting if that is the case, so. But obviously because of that, Nikki was, convincing her dad, it's like, it's, once again, it's time to come home, so. Obviously she talks to her mom, it's like, Dad's coming home, so. And she's like, trying to understand, like, coming from the perspective of understanding why her mom did what she did. It's like, you're trying to protect me and everything. Like, how'd you even know about my destiny and everything? She's like, the moment, like, you do the whole thing of, like, oh, like, is that like specifically a Chinese tradition? Because I feel like I've seen references to that tradition, like putting on an object and it kind of dictates someone's future. Like, I wonder is that something specific? Maybe it's not even just Chinese specifically. It might just be like an Asian tradition all across the board. Because I think amongst the different Asian countries and stuff like that, I do believe there is some crossover amongst the Asian culture as a whole, between, whether it be Chinese, Japanese, Korean, whatever the case may be, I think, that's just kind of, and once again, just coming from someone who is ignorant who only knows a little bit about Asian culture as a whole. Like, I'm probably, like, amongst any culture, I probably know a little bit about Japanese, just something I've picked up just for my own personal research, little bits I picked up here from anime and manga I've read over the year, just because, like, yeah, they're exaggerated, but they still pull from certain aspects of, like, Japanese culture and stuff like that. So that's a whole tangent and stuff aside. She talked about the fact is Nikki didn't choose any of them. It was like, oh, her choosing none of them was the thing, but it's like, no. Like, in her hand, she ended up having Mei Li's sister's earring, and it's like, we lost it like a year beforehand, whether it was under the couch or anything, you found it, and you holding it in your hand like that, it made me believe, like, you're going to end up following my sister's path, and that's what scared her. She was like, I got to do everything I can to stop you from going down that path, because I had already lost my sister to this path. I didn't want to lose you too, Nikki. Which is sad, because in her own way, she kind of did lose Nikki. Her trying so hard to protect her kind of accidentally ended up driving her away. And so, but, it's like, right, I forgive you, Mom. I understand why you did what you did. but no more secrets. Tell me everything about, like, this is my destiny, and like it's not like this is being forced upon me, because that was also a thing for her too. Like me ending up at the monastery, she was wondering if that was even by accident. It's like she had talked to Evan about that. Like, the fact is, I ended up there. Like, I thought I was choosing my own path, but what if it wasn't? What if, like, this was fate? Maybe, like, because it's too many coincidences. But that's what she brings up to her mom. There are too many coincidences, and I'm not just going to let it be fate. I'm choosing this path for myself, So this is what I want. I'm going to reclaim the sword that is our family's rightful heirloom. So she has even more reason to go after Jilan, because this isn't just about Paley anymore. This is about her destiny, and it's stopping stopping Jilan from accomplishing what she's going to do anyway. So it all kind of comes together, So it's like, right. So it's like, no more secrets about our bloodline or any secrets about my destiny. And so her mom brings out a box. It's like, this is everything I know about my sister and our bloodline and everything. So I'm very, very interested to see where everything ends up taking us. Going forward into the next episode, obviously, like, this information's out there. Like, obviously, Nikki also hasn't really expressly told the rest of her family, like her mom and dad, like, what she's got mixed up to and what happened at the monastery. Like, she hasn't really been open about that too. So for her, it's like, yeah, you gotta keep the same energy. So she's got to be truthful to them about what she's mixed up in. It's like, right, I know where the sword is. I know who has the sword, and bringing up the other weapons, and it's like, so. We'll see where all of that ultimately ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.